We will reconvene this public meeting in council chambers here at about 7:10. And Rosa, let's just recall the roll one time, make sure we're all here for the record.
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Jose,
Here.
Commissioner Wallace,
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Here.
Commissioner Colavani,
Here.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Here.
and Commissioner Glover.
Here.
Thank you for that. We will also restart this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just to add to the confusion, we have, before we get into the minutes of previous council meetings, we have a couple of visitors tonight, some special guests who want to talk about an upcoming event. Some folks from the Grove Express are here, particularly some of the student board, if you guys want to come up and tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Good evening, council, village staff, and mayor. My name is Mita Kuzminskas, and I'm a part of the junior executive branch for Downers Grove 5K Express.
My name's Addie Potter, and I am also part of the Junior Executive Board.
My name is Gina Liu.
All right, I'm going to be stepping up and talking about Race Day. Race Day is going to occur on November 24th, Thanksgiving Day, and at 8:30 a.m. It's going to be on Main and Grove Street, right next to Downers Grove North. I can't wait to see you guys either race or volunteer.
I'm going to be talking a little bit about how to sign up. So if you go to our website, groveexpress.com, there will be a participation link so that you can sign up to participate on Race Day. That'll be $35, but as we do get closer to Race Day, the price will increase because we need to have our participants known before then. Also, there is a sign-up link for volunteers on our website as well. And this race, all the profits from the race go straight back into the community of Downers Grove to supporting the community.
And we also have a merch store up on the Grove Express website, so there is merch there with our logos on it for those who want to support. And we have also created I Run DG t-shirts for both Downers Grove North and Downers Grove South, and we're hoping to create a bit of a competition between the schools to encourage participation.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Hi, and I just want to say just a couple words. My name's Don Renner. I'm president of the Grove Express Foundation. Thanks for having us tonight. Appreciate it very much. Just a shameless plug about Grove Express. We're really happy to have taken over the organization of the race from the Bonfield Foundation. Last year we raised close to $120,000 for D99, D58, and the Roadrunners Soccer Club. So we're looking forward to improving upon that this year. Registration so far is super strong. We're really excited about it. I think we're going to far surpass our numbers of last year, and we're going to have a great race. I also want to thank Nicole for her role in forming the junior board for the Grove Express 5K. It's been a fantastic opportunity for these students. They've had speaking opportunities. They've had real-world business opportunities as far as organizing an online store. They've had organizational and community organization experiences as well. So I think it's been a fantastic experience for them, and I can't wait to hear their feedback. And they brought a lot of energy and enthusiasm to our organization. So thank you very much for having us tonight. Good night.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, guys. All right, we move to item 5 on our agenda, minutes of previous council meetings. Is there a motion concerning such minutes?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the October 18th, 2022 village council minutes and the executive session minutes from the same date as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the council? Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose,
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace,
Aye.
Commissioner Glover,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Aye.
Commissioner Colavani,
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Aye.
Mayor Barnett.
Aye, that passes unanimously. Is there a motion concerning a consent agenda?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose,
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace,
Aye.
Commissioner Glover,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Aye.
Commissioner Kolovany,
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski Fugit,
Aye.
Mayor Barnett.
Aye, that too passes unanimously. Before we move on to our active agenda tonight, I'd like to talk a minute about public comments at our meetings. This is probably getting old for some of you, but for new visitors and those watching on TV, we just want to make sure we're all on the same page. In the past, we've had some meetings where we lost sight of basic decorum and mutual respect, so we're counting on everyone here to not let that happen again. Public comment portions of our meetings are important, valued parts of each council meeting. There are provisions in the agenda for such input at each active and first reading agenda item, and then later on items not specific to an active or first reading item under the public comments portion of the agenda. Beyond tonight's meeting, there are a variety of additional opportunities to engage council members, including e-remarks, the CRC system, coffee with the council, direct email, or by phone. And every one of your council members spends time in person off this dais, making themselves available to residents and businesses across the community. Those one-on-one conversations are often the most valuable. The comment opportunities tonight are intentional parts of a structured meeting and offer an opportunity to deliver comments to the council. Please remember, this is not a debate, nor is it a question and answer session. Applause or heckling is not acceptable, whether it be for something said from the dais or something delivered to the council from the podium. Your council is listening, we are taking notes, we are considering what is said, often and rightly. Some time is needed to reflect on the comments presented. That same consideration is expected of everyone in the room. Importantly, please address the council by addressing the center chair. This is not an opportunity to name call, accuse others of ill will, or debate one another. If we can't follow the rules, we can't exhibit a little decorum, we'll have to stop the meeting. If you do plan to speak, please keep the following in mind. Please state your name for the record, address your comments to me as the chair, keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Avoid repeating what others have already said. Please keep your comments to one visit to the podium per subject. And remember, the comments are most effective when they focus on subjects within the scope of Downers Grove governance. Finally, if you forget to mention something or additional conversation brings up a new idea, please use one of the other contact methods, email, CRC, or phone, to contact us as needed, or bring that comment to the next meeting. That's a long-winded way of saying we need to be respectful of each other, guys. Remember that this is about talking to us. And that time limit thing has caused some consternation in the past. Tonight we have a short crowd, but we've had meetings where this room is full, and we do still need to conduct business and get through a meeting. So that's the point of all that. So with that, we'll move on to the active agenda portion of our meeting. It's item 7 on your agenda. The active portion of our meeting contains items on which we plan to take action tonight. These are items which have been discussed at least once prior, sometimes multiple times prior. And with that, is there a motion concerning Special Service Area 12?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance establishing Special Service Area Number 12 in the Village of Downers Grove, Illinois, as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the audience on this item? Comments or questions from the council? Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose,
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace,
Aye.
Commissioner Glover,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Aye.
Commissioner Kolovany,
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski Fugit,
Aye.
Mayor Barnett.
Aye, that motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion concerning Special Service Area 13?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance establishing Special Service Area Number 13 in the Village of Downers Grove, Illinois, as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the audience on this one? Comments or questions from the council? Just for those watching at home or tonight here in Chambers, if this is the first time you've heard this and wondering why we're not talking about this, these special service areas are in place across the community, and generally they're so that the village has the ability to keep up on maintenance needs in typically subdivision areas should the groups that are responsible for those be unable to fulfill those commitments. It's basically the opportunity to levy a tax in the future should we need to. Rose, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose,
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace,
Aye.
Commissioner Glover,
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Aye.
Commissioner Kolovany,
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski Fugit,
Aye.
Mayor Barnett.
Aye. That passes unanimously. That takes us to item 8. Item 8 is the first reading portion of our meeting. This is the part of our meeting where we discuss items for the first time. Sometimes it's the second or third time, but these are items on which we do not plan to take formal action tonight. With that, over to you, Dave.
It is all about the budget tonight, Mayor. One item on tonight's first reading agenda. I may take more than my 5 minutes, if that's all right. This one is a rather lengthy presentation. It is the presentation of the entire proposed FY23 municipal budget, and as this council knows, the budget is the annual implementation plan of our mission and strategic goals. It aligns operations and resources with our priorities, especially those expressed in the long-range plan. Here's the overview of tonight's presentation. We'll start with an overview of the schedule. We'll recap that long-range plan sessions we did over the summer and how it drives what you see here in this budget. And then we'll spend just a brief moment on what the council actually votes on after all of this budget review that will take place. And then we'll dive into the budget itself. I'll go over the key points of the budget on a little elevator speech, and then go into each of those 7 key points in some detail. Then we'll take comments and questions. Tonight's presentation, we have a break in the middle of it for comments and questions on the general fund and the property tax levy. So we're looking for some council input at that time. So really kind of 2 points as we go through item number 4 and 5 there. So the budget review and approval process will take place over the next 6 weeks or so with 5 meetings, most of them right here at council meetings, but one a more informal meeting at Coffee with the Council at Fire Station 2 upcoming Saturday. So it takes place over 6 weeks, and it ends with the budget and tax levy approvals scheduled for Tuesday, December 13th. If we need an additional meeting to wrap up, we can always meet on December 20th to wrap up. The proposed budget reflects the goals and policy direction established by this council during the long-range plan. The 2021 to 23 long-range plan was prepared in the summer of 21, and then this summer in 22, the council updated it to reflect the newly identified trends and issues, and at that same time in the planning sessions confirmed this council's priority action items. The council at that time discussed updated financial information in the general fund, as well as sustainability issues in our water and parking funds. And you will see as we go through this, the direction and topics that we discussed and reflected in that plan are in the FY23 budget. So the budget materials provide a great deal of information to the council and the public, literally hundreds of pages of information. It's provided to allow really the council to approve just 2 important items. The first is actually a budget ordinance. This is an ordinance that establishes the maximum expenses in each of the village's 21 funds. And the second key approval is the tax levy ordinances, a series of ordinances that establish the property taxes that are levied in our village. Both of these items are planned to be approved by the council in December. So the key points of the proposed FY23 budget are all shown here on the screen. As always, we start with a balanced operating fund, balanced general fund with the recommended level of fund balance or reserves in that fund. As proposed, there is a decrease in the property tax levy driven entirely by an unexpected decrease in the required contribution to the public safety pensions. We are also presenting another option called the flat levy alternative, which we will go through in some detail tonight. This budget also provides funding for the Civic Center project, which is now under construction, and it continues to invest in our infrastructure systems with over $19 million investment in things like streets and sidewalks and stormwater and water system. This budget does create and fund 2 new full-time positions, and it does provide for an increase in funding of vehicle purchases, which we talked a little bit about in the long-range planning this summer. And finally, this budget does provide funding for our valued partner organizations, the Town Management Corporation and the Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation. So that was the budget in a quick overview. I do want to go into the general fund in some detail. The general fund is our main operating fund, and it is budgeted to be balanced with revenues and expenses of $57.97 million. And the fund balance is budgeted to be maintained at $22.2 million. That's approximately 38% of our annual expenses, and that amount is important because that's the amount that's consistent with the rating agency's guidelines to maintain our top AAA bond rating. So we want to talk a little bit about general fund revenues. The general fund derives its revenue from many sources, with the top 4 sources being property tax, sales tax, utility tax, and state shared revenues, particularly income tax. The total general fund revenue is budgeted to be $57.97 million. Now that is a decrease of about $900,000 compared to the FY22, this current year's year-end estimate. It's about a 1.5% decrease. Key drivers of the change in revenue compared to our year-end estimate are shown here on this slide. Ambulance fees and home rule sales tax are budgeted to increase following recent trends. The revenue from the planned tax levy for public safety pensions is budgeted to decrease by $415,000. That is a topic we'll revisit again later tonight. And revenues from building permits, income tax, and sales tax are expected to be a little less than FY22, and they are reflective of the economic conditions we expect to experience for next year, and frankly consistent with what we've seen in just the last 60 to 90 days. Utility taxes, as you see on the screen here, down by $140,000 or so. They've been declining for years and years, and this budget amount is reflective of that long-standing trend. Now moving to look at our expenses. Those expenses are also budgeted to be $57.97 million. This too is a decrease of just over $270,000 compared to our year-end estimate for this year. The FY22 current year estimated expenses include a $3.8 million transfer into the equipment replacement fund and our risk fund. All right, so the general fund expenses fall into two major categories: personnel and non-personnel. And the personnel-related expenses, because we are a service organization, account for about 73% of our total expenses. Those personnel expenses are budgeted to increase by 3%. Non-personnel expenses are budgeted to be approximately $15.5 million. That is about 17% higher than FY22 estimated expenses once you remove that transfer, the one-time transfer I talked about. So the non-personnel expenses are budgeted to go up by about 17% after you account for that. FY23 expenses in the proposed budget include about a $1.4 million transfer to the debt service fund to help make payments on our Civic Center bonds that we issued earlier this year. The expenses also include a full year of school crossing guard service expenses. Those expenses related to school crossing guards actually shifted from the personnel category to the non-personnel category in this year because we did privatize that service beginning in August of 22. So there's a little deeper look at the general fund, both our revenues and expenses. I wanted to get into another major component of our budget discussion, which is the property tax levy. A little bit of background information on our property tax levy. The total municipal budget relies on many sources of revenues, and we talked about some of them already. But property tax levy is one of the most significant sources of funding, and it accounts for about 27% of our general fund revenue budget. The village levies taxes in a specific dollar amount. We do not specify a rate. We do not establish a rate. We levy a specific dollar amount. And the property taxes due to the village on a particular property is based on that property's value, taxable value, compared to that property's value of all the other properties in our village. The village's property tax consists of multiple components that support specific services and obligations. The two most significant components of the levy are the levy for operations and the levy for pension obligations, particularly public safety pensions. Taxes from several taxing bodies well beyond the village appear on tax bills in our community. And this is a graphic we show every year just to explain sort of the tax bill in a broader context. The village portion of the property tax bill comprises only about 10% of that total bill. Other taxing bodies, such as schools, park district, and the county, and others, account for the remaining 90% of the bill. In 2022, current year, a typical residential property has a market value of just under $400,000. Well, that property paid just under $775 to the village of Downers Grove in property tax. So I want to focus on the public safety contribution portion of the tax levy. Per state law, the village is required to make annual contribution to the police and fire pension funds. The required contribution amount is based on an actuarial annual report. And while annual contributions will increase substantially from now until 2040, when the village is required to achieve 100% funding in both public safety pension funds, the FY23 required contribution unexpectedly decreased by $415,000 or so. This was driven by changes in the assumptions in the actuarial model and strong investment earnings in 2021. So given this unexpected situation, there are two options presented for the FY23 tax levy. A proposed levy and then an alternate of the proposed levy with just the required contribution, where the levy will actually drop, or an alternative levy, which is a flat levy, same as this year, to smooth the expected impact of the actual tax levy in '24. So let me go through those two options. The first option follows the long-standing practice of this council of levying an amount equal to the required public safety pension contribution. With the $415,000 decrease in this portion of the levy and holding all the other components of the levy exactly the same, the total tax levy would decrease from $16.89 million to $16.47 million. There's that $415,000 decrease shown on the screen. That's a decrease of about 2.5%. This means that the property taxes paid to the village for that typical residential property we talked about earlier would decrease by about $19 next year. $19. So the alternative, the second option of the tax levy, would address the issue of the expected significant continued increase in public safety contributions starting in FY24. To reduce the expected increase in the FY24 levy for public safety pensions, the council could keep the FY23 levy, the one we're talking about here tonight, the same as the total levy for this year, FY22. And to do that operationally, we would actually increase the operations levy by $415,000. This amount of money would be placed in the general fund balance. The village would then make the FY24 required contribution to the public safety pension funds using that $415,000 collected in '23, along with the FY24 pension levy. This approach would maintain the current tax levies flat, same next year as it is this year. It would result in a surplus general fund budget in FY23 with revenues exceeding expenses by $415,000. And it would result in a planned use of reserve budget in FY24 with expenses exceeding revenues by $415,000. This is simply a way to smooth the impact to our taxpayers. And you can see that here. With no change in the total levy, the amount paid in FY23 would not change from what it's being paid in FY22. And following this plan, the FY24 tax levy would be reduced by $415,000, therefore smoothing the expected impact of an increase. So that was a lot of information to go through quickly. All the council members have been briefed individually on this a couple weeks ago. And of course, our budget information has been posted on our website since October 21st. But we thought now, before we present the rest of the budget, would be a good time for any council questions on the general fund or these two options for the property tax levy. Mayor?
Thank you, Dave. So any comments, questions, reactions to the choices before us? Greg?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the staff for the presentation thus far, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it. I appreciate the alternate property tax levy option here. I haven't had a chance to fully geek out on the actuarial reports. Thanks for providing those as well. But I do think that the alternate way, the alternate property tax levy is the way to go. And the reason is something that Manager Fieldman mentioned. It's smoothing, and it's something that the actuaries do with the swings of the market anyway. And this is just one more way for us to sort of manage the highs and the lows that our property tax payers, our residents, and the businesses that do business here will experience. 2021 was a great year in the market. I don't know if you looked at your 401k lately, but 2022 hasn't been. And we got lucky with the actuarial change that led to the reduction in the public safety pension that's proposed here. And that's really what it is. It's just lucky. We don't know when the actuaries are going to make those changes. But we do know that the market is down significantly, whether you're invested in stocks or whether you're invested in bonds or some mix. And we know that next year, that experience, because there's always a one-year lag in these things when it comes to the actuaries, is going to start getting smoothed in. And as a result, the funded percentage of each of our pension funds is likely to dip a bit, which means our required contribution is going to go up. And if we can mitigate the portion of that for our taxpayers, I think we have a responsibility to do so. So I'm at least one vote in favor of the alternative property tax levy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I would second that. I think this is just a smart use of these dollars, a little bit of unexpected windfall, but we have the advantage this time to know that the likelihood that we're going to have to pay that back into it is very, very high. So I too agree. I think the flat levy, the good news is it's flat year over year, and we are sort of squirreling that away for what we know is coming next year or the following year. So I definitely support the alternative approach as well. Thank you.
Leslie, go ahead.
Yeah, I am also in favor of the alternative, keeping it flat. Just as everyone said, I am young enough that I have my 401k in some very aggressive funds, and so I have not looked at it for a very long time because I've got a while to go still. So, but I'm very aware of where the market is at this point right now, and I agree with the same. I mean, as somebody who does live pretty basic middle class, it really does feel better when your taxes and different things are staying stable because you can be a little bit more consistent with your budgeting. So I agree that the alternative is the way to go to kind of buffer some of those market impacts for our taxpayers. So I'm in favor of the alternative plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich?
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. If this was a trend that we would see as being more permanent, it would make sense to return that to our taxpayers. However, this is a one-year blip. We anticipate and know that it's going to go up, so it would be prudent to hold on to those funds. And it could be a very rough year in a lot of regards. And I'd have to say we had this money, we squirreled it away, and I also agree that people don't like this large movement from a budgeting standpoint. So the fact that we're going to need this in the future, we have it right now, we definitely see this as a bird in the hand. It's not like we're going to go out and wildly spend this money. So I agree with the smoothing proposal.
Thanks, Rich. Anyone else want to jump in? Nicole, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I will say that the alternative made me pause for a minute because we've had community members year over year say, why don't our taxes ever go down? And I was like, yes, they finally get to go down. And then the alternate, okay. And right now with inflation, $19, that could buy you a loaf of bread at this point. So I'm just, I'm trying to keep the community in mind. However, I thought about it more. And I do feel like this alternative is probably the better way to go. Sorry about the $19. But I just really feel like moving forward, this is the smarter move, and there's still no change. So while you're not getting money back, it's also not going up either. So this is a great middle ground, I feel. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Danny? Danny's all thumbs up. I'll just add two things. I agree with my colleagues, but I'll add two things. One is that we've made a commitment that not every community has to fund our pensions, right? That's what the law says, it's what we're supposed to do. Not every community does. You guys have probably all read about them. And I don't see this council or any future councils getting off of that, right? So whatever we do in 23 for 24 is going to reflect whatever the actuarial tables tell us. So, I mean, I think that's part of it, right? We, not only can we know that's coming from the market returns, but we also know because we made a commitment to do that. And that's important. I think it's a good way to help fulfill that commitment without, with the smoothing aspect. But the other thing is, too, $19 loaves of bread aside, in this environment, a flat levy is something to be celebrating. There is no piece of anybody's operations that is not inflationary right now. Take your CPI or PPI, pick one and look at it. So the fact that we think we can do this next year with a flat levy, I think is something to celebrate. It's not as good as saying it went down, to be sure, but everybody's household costs are going up dramatically, and we're going to not be part of that. So I think there's a lot to celebrate there, too. So I think you've got pretty good direction on that, Dave.
Yeah, with that, Mayor, if it's all right with you, we'll continue with the rest of the budget presentation.
Please do.
All right, this budget provides funding for the Civic Center project. The Civic Center project will result in the construction of a new building on the Civic Center property consisting of a new police station, a village hall, and a school District 58 administration offices all in one building. The total project budget is $60.4 million, and costs will be incurred in this year, FY22, FY23, and a little bit in FY24. The FY23 expenses are expected to be over $43 million and are reflected in the budget in the major building fund. The 2023 debt service payments of $1.3 million is included in the debt service fund budget. Due to the budgeted $1.4 million transfer from the general fund to the debt service fund, no increase in property tax is required to make this debt service payment, and we are positioning ourselves to continue that trend for the next couple of years. The proposed FY23 budget allows for continued substantial improvements in the village's infrastructure systems. The investment includes $5 million in streets, $3.6 million in stormwater, $6.4 million in the water system, and $1.5 million in our sidewalk system. These improvements are designed to reduce the total life cycle cost of owning and operating those infrastructure systems. And just to go off script, this is a big pride point for this staff team, that we continue to maintain our infrastructure systems in good financial times and challenging. It is the best stewardship of our infrastructure systems. Thanks to the council for your leadership on that going back decades. 2 new full-time positions will be added in FY23 according to this budget. An ERP systems administrator will be responsible for maintaining our new enterprise resource planning system, and a public works management analyst will be responsible for supporting and administrating those capital projects we just spoke of: streets, sidewalks, storm sewer, water projects, etc. Several part-time school crossing guard positions have been removed from the staffing plan. Those totaled 3.6 full-time equivalent positions. The school crossing guard services are now provided by a private firm under contract with the village, and that firm employs many of our former employees that were doing that same service for us in the community. The FY23 proposed budget includes $4.6 million for vehicle and equipment purchases. The number of replacement vehicles purchased in the past 3 years has been reduced due to financial considerations first, and then by supply chain issues. If you go back and think about 2020 and the early part of 21, we deferred the purchase of vehicles as part of our COVID-19 financial response plan. Then in late 21 and into 22, as the financial condition became more known and we were in good financial shape, the village has been purchasing replacement vehicles. However, supply chain issues reduced the number of vehicles available. Many vehicles that this council already approved for purchase have been ordered in 2022. Well, they won't even be delivered until 23, and expenses will be incurred in the 23 budget because of that. So for that reason, the FY23 proposed budget calls for nearly $4.6 million in vehicle and equipment purchases to allow the village to pay for vehicles ordered in 22 and continue to replace vehicles in 2023. Just as a reminder, we have a long-term plan for our vehicle fleet, and we make sure that we pre-fund those purchases by putting money in this fund in advance and using it as needed. The proposed budget includes $540,000 in funding for the Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation and $400,000 in funding for Downtown Management Corporation. These amounts are consistent with the budgets that were prepared by our partner organizations, and both of these organizations will be requesting funding from the village to support their operations, and we'll hear from both of their leaders later tonight. But for now, staff will be happy to answer any questions you have with a couple of notes here. So we presented a lot of information in a quick fashion. It's important that this council and community understand this budget. That's how we roll in this village. So if there are any council members who would like the staff to present any of the funds in more detail, it is our practice to do that upon request in one of the upcoming budget meetings. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the budget team for their work. They make it look so easy when really it is a lot of hard work. Robin Leahy, our finance director, this is her first budget in her current role, but she's been a long-time contributor to our budget process. Diva and Lexi and Matt and Josh and our budget guru, Mr. Baker, sitting right next to me, everybody's contributed to this. It is truly a pleasure to work with these professionals in this arena. Great job by the team. This is the council's budget, though, so if you want to direct any changes, have any questions, what have you, we're here to respond to those. Mayor?
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the council or subjects that we need more information on in an upcoming meeting or additional details? Greg, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Dave, could you flip back to the funding for the Civic Center project slide? I'm sorry, I just wanted to admire that a little longer. I love that we got this thing done. Kind of keeping an old joke going, this is my budget. I'm on board. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. This is my budget, too. Anybody else? Leslie?
Yeah, just again, thank you for an excellent budget. I am so happy this year to see an increase in full-time staff. I know it's something that every year that I've been up here, I've talked about how, you know, we cut for years and we run a very lean organization, but that can also be a huge strain on staff as well. So I am happy to see that we're, you know, starting to go back the other direction and really get to a place where we can be sustainable with both our service levels, but also with our staff well-being as well. Well-being is something that I do a lot in my day job with regard to the healthcare system, and so quite aware of the level of burnout there, and I have to imagine that it's very similar in all service organizations. So I'm happy to see that, and happy to see that we're able to maintain these levels. I'm also really thrilled to see, I know I was the one that was asking a lot of the questions, if you look at the council questions about some of the St. Joseph's Creek, I'm thrilled to see all of the plans. It's very comprehensive. It's not just looking at, you know, one branch or another. We're really looking at it in a holistic way, and it's nice to see several projects moving forward. So hopefully that should alleviate some of our stormwater concerns that we have in the village. So just thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich?
Yeah, I'd like to speak in support of the ERP administrator. That person is going to be very busy when you implement a new system. There's a certain amount of training that each one of the staff members is going to go through, but it's very difficult and a little bit scary when you flip over to live and the trainers have gone away. So you do need somebody on the inside who knows it inside and out. That will also help with future updates to that system that come out of the maintenance that you pay, and then learning new enhancements, being able to disseminate those to staff, or when we have a new staff people or replacement staff people come on board that have to learn the new system. Also, I do support the Public Works Management Analyst. There's a lot that has to go on behind the scenes to manage these projects, not just people who are doing the work, and it also frees up for management to do their primary management role and let someone focus more on the project management aspects and analysis. So I think those are good ads for us, and congratulations to the budget team. You guys do a lot of great work, and we really appreciate that.
And I'll take that opportunity, you know, we were talking about Public Works. There's so many folks on the Public Works side of the budget team. Ray George has been putting together capital project budgets for years in an exemplary way. Had some new folks over there in new roles. They're doing a great job too, so I want to miss Ray and her contribution to the team.
Anyone else? Chris, please.
Yeah, I think I would just add, as I sort of take this in again, you know, we're talking about a flat rate and how much more incremental we're getting for this flat rate, right? So, pointed out the building, I too support the building. But even, you know, with the capital projects that we're investing in, there's no diminishing of that. We've added, as you pointed out, additional staff as a service organization. These are critical people for just adding more value. So, you know, I just think the value that we're getting, especially this year, I think it goes a lot to the way our budgets and our finances have been managed. And I credit that a lot to staff and your team, the council as well, in thinking of these things. It's you know, I'm proud to be on this council that is able to bring this added value while maintaining these, you know, this at a flat rate, thinking of things in the future. And I'm looking forward to more of this to come. So thank you for your work. It's not just putting the budget in a binder, but all the work that goes into that. I really, I think we all appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Mayor. I think you are allowing me to go. It's just giving me a look. I just really wanted to thank staff again. This is incredible. You guys always do a phenomenal job. And I love that we're keeping with tradition, Commissioner Jose, because this is my budget. Thank you.
Danny's thumbs up again. I'm not going to repeat what my colleague said. This is there's a couple other pieces, though, that I did want to highlight. One is, for those that are watching at home, just in general, we didn't spend 15 minutes to decide to spend $60 million. It kind of looks like that, and it might feel like that. Our process is one that has been going on for quite some time, the Village of Downers Grove, and it involves our long-range planning process. And so what happens by the time we get to this budget document, and not to diminish any work that anybody in staff is doing, but from some of these policy decisions about what is our scope going to be in next year has been sorted out through a number of meetings. I can't remember the number. It's probably over a dozen over the course of the year, starting with LRP, high priority action items, and then we sort of end at budget. We're going to do a levy too, and that's going to be totally uneventful. Everybody's going to say, well, I can't believe you just levied all that money and you didn't even talk about it. But that's the process. So anybody that's interested, please take some time on our website. The stuff is there. It's going to be easier to find in a year or so. That's another project that's going on. But really, take some time on our website if you're interested in our village budget, and then also go back and look through meetings, because they're all recorded, they're all archived. You can find them through YouTube. This is a very transparent process, but it's a long one, and so you can't really just come to a budget meeting and be like, what the heck? The other thing I wanted to point out is we've got $1 million, just call it $1 million, for EDC and downtown management. And some could say, what? $1 million? But 28% of operating this village comes from property taxes. 28. It's not much. And there certainly are other fees. There are stormwater taxes, obviously there are utility taxes as well. But a huge portion of our revenue, and what allows us to keep doing the work we're doing, is the economic activity in our community. It's the vibrancy of the downtown. It's the work EDC does. It is a big, big part of what we do. Our return on that investment in those organizations is through the roof. It is super important. And then the last thing, just to kind of quantify this a little bit, it's on an average house, it's about $2 a day you're paying in property taxes for police protection and fire protection and somebody to come fix your water main at 2 o'clock in the morning when it's 20 degrees out. It is really, we do run a lean organization that sometimes can be translated into frugal, sometimes cheap. I say it's neither. If you're really into lean, what it is it's a narrow scope, and it's doing that scope exceptionally well. And I think that's what we've been doing over the last 15 or 20 years. That's what's put us in this spot, and that's a tribute to all the councils before, and that's a tribute to our staff. and our partner organizations, EDC and Downtown Management, who are both here tonight. But it's a big deal. That economic development and downtown management teams do a lot of work on behalf of all of us and create, frankly, an environment that allows us to operate like this. So I just want to say thank you to you guys, but also to everybody else as well.
What a great introduction and segue into our partner organizations. Both Aaron Venezia from Downtown Management Corporation and Brian Gay from the Economic Development Corporation are here to present a little bit of their budget and their funding requests and really talk about how valuable they are to our mission. So I will let them run and fight for the microphone and see who goes first.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Aaron Venezia, and I am the Executive Director for Downers Grove Downtown Management Corporation. I am happy to provide some insight to the budget of our Special Service Area Number 11. The creation of SSA Number 11 has created a new baseline for our revenue source. This was the first increase the organization has seen since the beginning of our previous SSA, SSA Number 2, in 1999. While keeping in mind our organization's mission and the strategic plan put together last year, our Board of Directors passed the budget in front of you. This year, with our increased budget, we were able to increase our advertising with media that have been previously cost prohibitive to us, such as Chicago Magazine and WGN Radio. We will continue to explore new avenues as well as evaluate the old. The advertising is used not only to promote the events we host in the downtown, but also to promote downtown Downers Grove in general. Costs to host the events continue to rise. Even Santa is not immune to inflation. The cost of candy canes have gone up more than 40%. This budget allows us to continue to tweak our events as needed and to continue to host relevant events and remain competitive with neighboring towns while also being fiscally responsible. This past year, we introduced Loyal to Local program. We are looking forward to being able to bring this back in 2023. This program encouraged our residents to support local as well as put money back in the downtown businesses. This was a well-received Support Local program that ran June through August, and we have had other towns now inquire as to how we ran the program, as they would like to run one similar in their own towns. Candy Cane Cash will be coming starting on Thanksgiving weekend, and that is also running throughout the holiday season, and is one that also will encourage shopping local, dining local, all through the holiday season, and also will be putting money back into the downtown businesses through February. Our organization is excited to announce that we recently were able to increase our staffing by adding a part-time communications coordinator, so we now have 1 full-time staff member and 2 part-time staff members. In the past year, downtown Downers Grove welcomed 18 new businesses, and our first floor occupancy rate is at 97%. Our organization will continue to work with the interested parties in finding them their perfect location. We maintain a list of available properties on our website as another avenue to help connect property owners with prospective tenants. We also maintain a list of businesses that reach out looking to open in the downtown to assist the properties owners when they are looking for a potential tenant. Over the last few years, we have been adding aesthetic elements to the downtown. Most recently are the additional planters and the replacement of the benches within the downtown. We now are able to maintain an aesthetic line item in our annual budget. Downtown management will continue to maintain the planters in the downtown and are looking to add a new seasonal pole banner in 2023. We are working on finalizing the 2023 event calendar, which looks similar to the 2022 event calendar and can be completed once the 2023 funding is approved. I look forward to our continued partnership with the village in working towards making downtown Downers Grove the best place it can be for our community and future community members. I'm excited for the future of our downtown, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thanks, Aaron.
There.
Good evening.
Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be presenting to you my first budget this year. So you're aware, the Downers Grove EDC did a review and approved this proposed budget at our September board meeting, which of course was like 3 weeks after I got started. So, but as I'm told, this budget is well within line of what our traditional requests have been. This budget allows for us, to have a approximate $56,000 cash carryover from the previous year. So again, those funds saved over the past year, we're just not shoving them in a bank account and kind of saving those for a rainy day. We're continuing to use those and try to, keep our costs within line of what we've traditionally done. We do have a funding request for just under $540,000 from the village. That is including our continuance of our Partners for Prosperity, $50,000, as well as always favorited event for the year, our annual luncheon will be held in the first quarter of next year. Along with this, we have traditionally held the line on our expenses, approximately about $656,000. This allows us to continue operations as usual here, with some normal administration cost increases to those across the line, accounting, office lease, some insurance. Our personnel expenses have stayed pretty much normal from where we have traditionally been. We did have a dip this year due to Michael Cassa's exit in April, and then me not coming on until September. So again, we've held the line pretty much on that. And then our programming and marketing expenses, $179,000, again with some minimum increases to some of our subscriptions, wanting to be a little bit more sophisticated, bringing on a few new programs here. We'll be holding the line at about $179,000 for that. So, and then this budget once again does allow us to continue to maintain and increase our strategic special projects fund. This fund will be adding on an additional $75,000 over the next year. This will allow us to create a new 501c3 nonprofit entity that's going to allow us to, as the opportunities present themselves, be able to go and obtain new pots of money that are specifically designed for 501c3 entities, but then also allow us to do a variety of special reports as we've always done, and again, as I mentioned, seek out additional opportunities as they're presented. So, be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being
For
here.
us too, we're happy to answer any questions on anything presented on tonight's budget.
Okay, anybody on the council got any questions? Any comments or questions from the audience on the budget presentation?
Hi, my name is James Kelly.
Hey, Jim.
I'm sorry. Do that all the time. Bad habit. I break it. I actually question this for the two people that were just up there.
Hey, Jim. You gotta ask us.
Okay.
And then we'll get
Okay,
the answers and get them back to you, okay?
Gotcha. Teaching me well. What is their total budgets of both organizations? Including what the village is contributing?
See it on the screen there now.
Just to add some color to that, the downtown management, I believe that $400,000 is very close to their total expense budget. And Economic Development Corporation, I think that number is in the mid 600,000s, around 650 all in, because they have private sector funding sources as well.
Right.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Any other budget-related questions? Okay, we will move on then.
That ends our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you, and I also have no further reports.
Okay, item 10 on our agenda are public comments. This is the portion of the meeting where we invite public comment on items not on the agenda. Just a reminder of the commentary we had earlier. If you've got something you want to tell us, come on down to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. Linda Schranz, Downers Grove resident, 36 years. I did email the council and the mayor, but I just want to reiterate that the library has an opening right now for a trustee. And I'm hoping that as the council looks at individuals that would be able to fill that role of trustee, that they would look at people who actually appreciate the purpose and function of the library in our community, particularly as it goes beyond just a book, a lending library. I want to see someone who really understands the world of nonprofit, doesn't see the library as a business that has to be funded, but as a service to the community. And primarily, one of the things that I'm most impressed about with our library is its dedication to the value of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so obviously I would hope that whoever is selected to serve as trustee would hold those values as well. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is James Kelly. I have some really bad news tonight, or actually I was given a couple days ago. The community kitchen was announced is supposed to be closing November 12th. That upsets me because the last time I went there, and I really didn't go for a meal because I actually make money occasionally, there was a younger lady with a 12-year-old kid and a 6-year-old kid. And the extension of that meal they needed that night warmed my heart. The knuckleheads, which is maybe 5 of them, I won't name any names, that would be politically incorrect. The knuckleheads that are ruining it for the people that can use help are still there. I have done missionary work through the city. I did a feeding with Pays for Homeless. We fed hundreds of people within a couple hours, and there was never an incident. One of the reasons, Mr. Mayor and City Council, is they have a Chicago police officer, 1 or 2 sergeants actually, during the events. He doesn't intimidate except for his presence, and it makes a difference. There's a meeting Thursday night at 7 o'clock at First Congregational Church. I'm encouraging the public, and I'm encouraging the City Council, if at all it's possible. Pastor Scott has a tighter time frame than everybody else. He's not giving 5 minutes, he's only giving 2 minutes. This is something that's close to my heart. My finances are getting better and better, and that's part of it is the encouragement from your mayor. When I decide, when he asks me a question, are you just coming through or are you sticking around? I'm sticking around. I have had police officers say, "You don't live here." I say, "I don't care, because my heart's here. I fell in love with your town." And you can't. And my attorney says engage. And unfortunately, I over-engage sometimes. But it's an open meeting, Thursday night, 7 o'clock. I hope to see some of you council people there and some of the public, because they're looking for how they can fix something that's needed. It's not going to just go away. There's marginal people and there's people that are way beyond margin. They have no other resources. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Other subjects not on tonight's agenda? Okay. Mayor does not have a report tonight. Council member report outs. Rich.
Yes, the Downers Grove Historical Society is hosting its annual History on Tap pub crawl on Thursday, November 10th, starting at 5:30. If tickets are still available, because I didn't check today, it would be at downersgrovehistory.org.
Are you checking?
Nope.
Okay. Leslie?
Yep, just remind everybody, no matter what bubbles you fill on Tuesday, the 8th, just make sure you do your civic duty and get out there and vote. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole?
I have no report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Danny?
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Still thumbs up?
I'm all good.
Oh, good. Chris?
I would second the notion of please get out, do your duty, and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
I'm going to go ahead and third that then, real quick. If you're watching this before Tuesday, November the 8th, you can't vote here like you normally could in past elections for early vote, but you can go over to the Lincoln Center, 935 Maple Avenue, right here in Downers. They are open Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 7, and on Saturdays from 9 to 5. Go exercise the franchise. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We are going to reconvene to executive session. We are not going to adjourn. So is there a motion to reconvene to executive session?
Mayor, I move to reconvene into closed session pursuant to Section 2C3 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act to consider the selection of a person to fill a public office which the village council is given the power to appoint under law or ordinance.
Second.
Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Commissioner Kolovany?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. We will reconvene in just a couple minutes over in the committee room. We will not be returning here to adjourn, so thank you all for coming and good night.